with God, I have this conversation, but it's more like I have an epiphany that his plan for my life is much better than what I can carve for myself.
Golden take. Here we go. Hello and welcome, guys, to Only One, Season 4 with the Mad Dog and the Wildcat. And Mad Dog, it's another golden take. Where are we going?
I think we're gonna turn Canadian. I'm gonna turn in my U.S. passport. I'm gonna get a Canadian one. I'm close enough, anyways. The waters, I can swim there, so I'm pretty much a Canadian from this point on.
There you go.
All roads into Canada.
All roads lead to Canada. I mean, the amount of people that I've met around the world, who people think, that Canada and America are the same place. They are not, right? That's a big thing to say, that America and Canada are different, right? But they're your neighbors. And so you know a little bit about Canada already, but we're hopefully going to find out a little bit more. But for those who've never heard about Canada, tell us, Mad Dog. I didn't realize it was the second largest country in the world by land, right?
Yeah.
It's got the same population, you say, as where you live.
Well, I mean, it's 40 million, 50 million people. So, I mean, Wisconsin's like 10 million, so it's a quarter of the population. But I mean, there's places that have more population, but the people, it's closer to you actually, because they're a monarchy. I mean, they're part of your extreme beliefs, the Queen, King.
Still looked at over there, yeah.
But we, as growing up in Wisconsin, kind of, we're very close to Canada, and as I traveled around the U.S. and even around the world, people, it confused me as being Canadian. I talked like in the north of the U.S. we have a different accent, obviously, so we sometimes are talked like you, maybe Newcastle could be Scottish. Wisconsin could be considered Canadian. So sometimes I would use that. Yeah, I'm not American. I'm Canadian. No, I'm not Canadian. I'm American. But, there's that kind of overlap. So I've always been interested in Canada. And I was loved basketball since I was young. And then James Naismith, this former coach, chaplain, wanted to do something in the wintertime. And they had these facilities indoors. And he decided to put up a peach basket. And he used the soccer ball and started throwing it in there. Voila. We've got basketball, global phenomenon coming from Canada with the intent, the purpose of ministry. Can you believe that?
Really? That was what it was?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a chaplain. He wanted people, to use that as a tool, device to continue to bring people closer to Jesus.
Yeah, I did not know that. Wow. Amazing. So that's how basketball started. Some sort of basket. Anyway, it was a chaplain started it. And anything else around Canada? Or should we find out from Charles?
I think Charles is going to give us some things. Plus, I'm going to ask him, this whole peanut butter controversy. There's George Washington Carver was supposed to be the one who invented peanut butter. I'm going to ask Charles if he knows this, but they're saying Marcellus Edison was the one who actually kind of patented, invented it. Whereas George Washington Carver kind of messed around with peanuts and did a lot of great experiments with peanuts, but he wasn't the one who invented peanut butter. So let's see if Charles even knows his own history.
Well, there you go. Already educating both of us that basketball and peanut butter came from Canada. Who knew? But guys, stick around because we're going to dive into a golden take from one of our own countries in Canada to find out when the ministry began, what's happening there, what might happen in the future as well. So we'd love you guys to stay listening and pray for the ministry going forward as well, right, Mad Dog? So without further ado, should we bring him in?
Let's bring him in. Oh, Canada.
Here we go. It has been said on this podcast that all roads lead to Canada. So without further ado, let's welcome this week's guest, Charles Millette. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you. This is a joy. I never thought I would make it on the podcast, but here I am, thanks to this invitation. And I cannot wait to see where this goes and being able to share what God has been doing here in a way, actually.
Here we go, Canada. Oh, Canada.
Well, you have invited other guests before. So the Canadian great guest that we've had before, Sydney Pierce, and we had Sarah on as well that you've known as well. So thank you for that. But we want to get to know you. We want to get to know our team leader in Canada. So Mad Dog, take it away. Let's get to know Charles.
All right. We know you watch. We know you've been inspired. Your whole life has changed, shifted, because we know Tuesdays you're waiting for that episode to drop like a gold bar.
That's right.
So we start with the rapid fire, quick fire questions. So we got an extra. Is it a bone? No, we got 5. Okay. So first one, very simple. Tee this one up, hit it out 500 yards, put it on the green. Coffee or tea?
It's tea for me, but I've only been drinking it for the past 3-4 years. So I'm a beginner.
Okay. Well, that's true. You can always turn back. Those coffee mug stains are coming still in that mug. All right. As a Canadian now, this is where it's at. Are you a mountains or a beach vacation person?
That's a tough one. Depending on the season, it has to change. But mountains are for me a place where there's a connection that I feel with God that is unique. So mountains would be my pick.
But you need a beach, you'd say Florida or even Thailand, because of the winters in Canada, right? You need to have some sort of knowing that you're still alive, not numb and frozen to the pain of a Canadian winter. All right. Two questions about Canadians specifically. The most famous Canadian invention, was it basketball, Naismith, or was it peanut butter, Edson?
I didn't even know about peanut butter, so I'll have to say basketball.
Okay. Yeah, in America, they always say it's Carver, Washington, or something like that, but it's a tribute to the Canadians. So congratulations. Mm-hmm. Another invention. What's most famous to you? The pacemaker, John Hopps was a Canadian, or insulin, Frederick Banting. Both Canadians. Pacemaker or insulin?
I mean, God says to guard our hearts above all things, right? So I'll go pacemaker.
There you go. Keep it alive. Keep it alive. And this last one, this one could get deep, could get spiritual. We don't know. But Ben and I want to know, if you travel, do you prefer traveling with a backpack or a duffel gym bag? Which one is it?
Yeah, actually,
we know it's not a suitcase. We know
it's not a suitcase.
In the
things that have wheels, it's because it's got to go like far, and a suitcase with wheels doesn't fit me. I'll have to say a backpack. Yeah, backpack will do for me.
How do you do, Ben?
Yeah, I feel like he was learning some things there, right, Charles? That you didn't know about Canada as well. So that's what quickfire does. Well, it's great to have you on, and we want to know more about the things that you do know about Canada. So obviously, we're in Golden Takes. We're looking at Canada, the country of Canada. So for any one of our listeners who doesn't know anything at all about Canada, can you give us an overview of the amazing country that is Canada?
Yeah, I'll start with the country motto. It's actually from a verse of the Bible. It's from Psalm 72, 8-8. So 72:8, sorry. It says, "May he have dominion from sea to sea." So Canada's motto is from sea to sea. Actually, now these days it's been pushed to sea to sea to sea, because to the west we have the Pacific Ocean, to the north we have the Arctic Ocean, and to the east we have the Atlantic Ocean. So lots of water around us. So it's interesting that our country motto is anchored in God's word. Maybe two words that defines Canada well in that time that we have together. So the idea of vast, just from one coast to the next. If you drive from Halifax to Vancouver, that's, around 6,000, maybe a bit more. If you drive all the way up to Yukon, then you go into the 7,000. And I did a quick research in terms of, the size of the country. And it's basically going from like Dakar in Senegal, almost all the way to Kenya, to Nairobi. Wow. And with our different teams around in Africa, it's for a team from Ethiopia to go to Malawi and back. That's like the distance that it would take, right? European-wise, it's like from Lisbon all the way to the northern parts of Norway. Like that's like the width of Canada. We have the mountains, the beaches, the prairies in the middle that is harvesting, wheat for all of the world probably. So that's maybe the first word. So it's vast. And that will go with the vision I have for Sports Friends Canada a little later on. And then the other word is diverse. So the weather can go from plus 30 something in the summer to minus 30 something in the winter, right? So freezing, so 60 some degrees difference. And in terms of diversity of people, which is to me even more important, so more valuable, just a city like Toronto is home to people of 250 ethnicities, and also 170 languages are represented in Toronto alone. So as you visit cities in Canada, and now even more like towns, you will meet people of every nation. Canada is a land of opportunities, as they would say, is a land of immigration. So there's a lot that you can experience within one country. We have obviously a French-speaking province for the most part. So Quebec, very unique in its history, in its culture, very diverse. Montreal being the place where I grew up, you can travel a lot within one city by meeting people of every place. So that might be my 2 words: vast and diverse.
So you're going to say the Dakar Rally should be driven from Halifax to Vancouver. So we should do that. Maybe take that up in the wintertime, get those chains on the tires, get through that snow.
They've actually, Mercedes did a kind of an experience with their smart cars. They drove most of Canada in the winter with a smart car. So I don't know if any of the cars survived, but I know that they tried to do it. So
smart car. Do you have a smart car, Ben?
I used to have a smart car. It wasn't very smart. It would not have went across the whole of Canada, I tell you. So I can't hack me minus 30 degrees anyway. So my smart car could never have done that. So, yeah. But yeah, incredible. That was good. Amazing to see. People around the world be able to see how vast Canada is. I knew it was vast. But yeah, incredible, that diversity as well in the land of Canada as well. Really good.
So we've heard about Canada. We know that all roads lead to Canada. We're finding that out in several of our episodes. So we had to bring the resident Canadian expert into the Already One podcast. So we've heard about Canada, the history, the story. I don't think population-wise, there's not a lot of people living up there, right? You're about 40, 50 million?
Yeah, 40 million would be a good estimate, yeah. 40
million strong Canadians, and you have 5 plus you in the household, so 4, your wife and your 3 children. So you're raising about a percentage of the population right there. So tell us about your life, your personal life. When did you realize you've already won, and how has that faith brought and refined you through these sort of trials in your life?
It's probably the best question I can be asked, right? These days, just blessed to have grown up with evangelical Christian parents, which in Canada, in Quebec, I should say, is not very obvious. Like, we have less than 1% of the Quebec population that is born again Christian or evangelical Christian. So my parents were wonderful examples. Full of grace, of patience. I was a third of 3. And I was one that would explore a lot. I was one that would just, even though I was super timid when I was a kid, I was one that would just take off on them, not out of like rebellion, but out of like, wow, there's a world out there, right? So I discovered a lot. And then along these years of teenage and young adults, when you start to make your own decisions, trying to see where God wants you to go, or maybe just trying to see where you want to go. Well, I'm on the independent side, right? We did mention something about a backpack, and that goes into my story. Actually, I can put a date on it. So February 1st, 2006, I find myself in North Africa, in Morocco, to be exact. I'm somewhere on the verge of like entering like the deep desert, like the deep Sahara. So I'm not venturing out very deep, but I'm booking a night at a hotel. But I decided to ask if I could sleep outside. Oh, they say, yeah, there's a tent out there. You can take a mattress and sleep there. I'm like, all right, that's for me, right? So on that night, I go out and I sit on a sand dune. Okay. Starry night, like I've never seen, stars, upon stars. And I'm just sitting there, and with God, I have this conversation, but it's more like I have an epiphany that his plan for my life is much better than what I can carve for myself. The self-love that I was kind of really enjoying or putting first was damaging to a lot of people. I was not living a life that was honoring my parents. That was not a life honoring other people around. So on that night, God really, once again, said, Charles, I love you. And I love you in ways that you are getting to understand, but you have no idea where I can take you on trips, where I can lead you on this earth. So I was so moved, the tears and everything comes out. And then I'm like, okay, I got to stop being, the one that leads the way, but I need to follow his guidance for my life. So long story short, it's like I was a slave to my own freedom, my own desire to explore. And I just realized that on that night that I need to be, right, a slave. I need to follow God and not follow my own thing. So there you go. That's a bit where I've realized how much I had won by joining God's team.
Love it. And now you've even got the key ring now, right, to say that you've already won.
Luggage tag, baby. Luggage tag.
I got it right here. I got it. I love you guys so much. I love what you do, and I needed to do that. So I got a luggage tag. Maybe we get a contest going, Ben.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. What do we got? So if those listening only, that there's a luggage tag about 3 inches long, red and white, Sports Friends logo, already won, listed on it. It's got a key ring, so it can go on your luggage. You can put keys on it. You can put on your parachute as you're jumping out of a plane, as Charles does. How are we going to get rid of this? What's the qualification? If you're what, Canadian, is that right?
If you're in Canada, in a church in Canada, get in touch. Tell us what church you're listening from, and you can win this. So what's the email, Mad Dog, people can email into?
Let's go with info@sports-friends.org. info@sports-friends.org. It's on the bottom of the screen for those watching.
Love it.
Shoot us an email. Tell us you're Canadian and why you're Canadian.
So, well, I tell you, that was a great test me there, Charles, when you realized you already won. And since then, obviously, you did say that God's got a better plan, and he did take you on an amazing journey and adventure. And obviously now you're working now in Canada. You're about to teach some of our training in French. But before that, you've also taught in Spanish and in English. So tell us a little bit about some of those trips that God has taken you on, where you kind of surrendered your life and said, I don't want to live just my own life. And you said, right, I'm going to serve him. How has that taken you different places and with Sports Friends? Tell us a little bit about that.
It all started back in actually 2014. So we have been with SIM since 2010 and so on. Detour through West Africa, coming back from my dad's sickness, and he eventually passed away in 2013. And between 2013 and 2015, when we first left, my wife Sarah, she bumped into some publications of Sports Friends, and then we contacted at the time was Trip, and actually Kyle was quickly brought into the conversation. And I don't know if you remember, Kyle, our first interaction was early July 2014.
You guys are outside chatting away. I was trying to go, who are these people?
My son was born 2 days prior. So my wife and I were in the birthing center, and the scheduling of the meeting worked, and we just chat over Skype, I think, back then. And then, the conversation went. And anyways, it was great to meet Kyle and to meet Trip at the time. And through discernment and through discussions, the first opportunity came where I could come alongside the team in Peru. I had lived in Spain back in 2005 and 6 over Christmas there for 5-6 months. So I could still speak a bit of Spanish. And it came back, and as a trained teacher, being able to spend time with fellow, brothers and sisters and unpack the material and bring them to a place where they can coach and lead a team has been a wonderful joy. Learning the ropes of the ministry, the model and stuff in Peru for 5 years. And there, seeing how much sports ministry can be a magnificent motivation for young adults to enter ministry, to use the gifts that they have. In Peru, soccer or football is everywhere, and volleyball and is played in the street. It's very, very fun-loving people who enjoy sports. So as we spend time in the mountains of Peru, in the jungle now, even deeper with the different partnerships that are happening there and so on, I was really blessed to be able to use another language, but also use the similar passions, right? And I think God uses that all along. So it was awesome for my kids to grow up in a third language, for them to understand, God's mission on earth and all that comes with and stuff. And then we eventually came back to Canada 2020.
So historically, Peru, South America in general, has been sort of classified as a Catholic, somewhat already Christianized continent. But Peru, Bolivia, now you're kind of still helping, talking with us. Like, how do you see sports and sort of the making of disciples, that component, still useful in places like Peru?
I don't know if I can say that Catholicism is for the older generations. I've not attended a whole lot of Catholic Mass and so on, but I want to say that the gospel might not be as prevalent as we think of these Catholic countries, right? So I think being able to reach people where they are, the kids, the youngsters, the young adults, because there are people playing football all the way to like probably 2 a.m. every Friday, every Saturday. Like football is everywhere. So for the gospel to be brought onto these soccer fields, to be where sports is played in this country makes a lot of sense, because I'm not sure how closely connected to the cross, to Jesus, to the biblical truth. I'm not sure how close most of the Peruvians would be, right? And stuff. So I think it makes so much sense for churches in Peru, in rural areas, urban areas, to train, to see some of their church members be trained, and then go out in the community, go out in the neighborhood, and so on. So
great. And I love that you said before, great way for young adults to enter into ministry, which you've seen in a different context, different place. So you said the ministry began in 2020 in Canada then. So tell us a little bit about what that journey's been like. We're obviously speaking 5 years on from that time. What's really kind of been the journey like, and what's exciting you about the future as you look ahead in the next kind of 5 years of Sports Friends in Canada?
Yeah, so it started at a time where we came back to Canada during COVID, and we didn't know what was next for us, right? So we saw God provide in incredible ways for our family as we came back from Peru with just a few bags, and it was COVID time. We didn't have a home to go back to. We didn't have a car. We had nothing. So God allowed for us to see his ways of providing, right? Providing for the basic needs of his children. Amazing. My faith grew a bunch then, and I'm like, God, I want to keep serving you in Canada, but I don't know how's that going to take shape, right? But as I looked around, I realized that so many churches have a gym, right? They have a sports gym where basketball has been played or whatever. And then I look around, and public parks everywhere, and saw sports fields, and I'm like, okay, God, you probably want to, I'm sure you can use all of that. And then a coworker of mine that is based all the way in the West Coast outside of Vancouver, he contacted me back in, I want to say late 2020, where I was still kind of like in limbo. And he says, Charles, I've heard that you do sports ministry, that you're there to equip local churches. You're there to, walk with them and strategize and stuff. I'm like, do you think churches in Western Canada, in BC, could use that tool to meet their neighbors of different faith, I'm like, for sure, let's do it, right? So bold that I am, or maybe wild, or I don't know the words I want to use on this show, but I said, no problem, I'll do it. So our first training of coaches had three Saturdays of 3 hours on Zoom. It was the worst idea probably that we could come up with. That was in 2021. So some coaches, we had a cohort of maybe 15, 12. I don't remember, but we would spend that time 3 Saturdays of May on virtual. And then I drove to BC. I drove all the way, finished off the training in person. It was maybe like a first bimodal training. I'm not sure, but we had to be innovative. And so that was how it all started.
I remember that. I sending some videos to that and seeing those guys. Yeah. What about in the future then? We said, what about, you've got some really exciting opportunities coming up. You said, I think that was the first training you did. And then obviously now you're looking at kind of doing an in-person training and stuff. So yeah, tell us about you've probably got around 40 different churches you've invited to do trainings with. So tell us a little bit about what that's going to look like now in the future ahead.
Yeah, so evolving from that first one, right, in 2021 to this year, trying to understand. So just as an example, so right now for the provinces of the Atlantic that we call the Maritimes, I've invited churches to send participants. But the first step is doing it virtually, right? Instead of all joining on one Zoom call at this specific time, thanks to our virtual training platform, Pathright, and all that stuff, I'm able to send these participants to a place where they can, wrestle with the material, with the theory on their own. And then we're going to meet this one Saturday of November. So instead of really stretching it virtually, we try to be smart, and we try to understand the reality of Canadian believers, right? Time seems to be short. in terms of availability. So we try to be smart, and that's where we're at. We'll see how it works, because I'm not sure that a 4-day training could work in Canada, family wise and all this stuff. It's my hope and dream that one day we can get there, but I'm not sure.
So you've developed these different strategies. You told us about the first virtual, which, looking at hindsight, maybe would change that a little bit, but timing and everything and distance wise. But there's a young man named Keith who is a dentist. Tell us a little bit about how he's making an impact, how he is using sports for ministry.
Yeah, Keith, wonderful young man of nearly 80 years old. I think he's turning 79 this year. He might be 79 already. Keith has seen the need to just spend time with people. I'm sure that there's going to be a link to the video that we had with him, but he had a devastating accident when he was 50-some, almost had his leg amputated, something, and yet his heart for others has remained. And one of his passions is basketball. He's always played. Sports is a thing that has been part of his life, and he's brought Jesus with him everywhere he's went, so basketball courts and so on. So a couple of things that really come to mind for me is that it's sports ministry the way that we see it as Sports Friends, where we train local churches ready to spend time to be a presence. It's for almost mature believers of every age, right? A 20-year-old believer on fire can be a coach, and an 80-year-old man who knows a lot about life can be a great presence on the court. So that's maybe the first thing. Second thing is, to me, is passion and treasures. We should never bury these, right? They should never be put on the back burner, even as we grow older, and as maybe the strength or the flexibility, or someone loses, the ability to shoot well or to dunk. It doesn't mean that what God has taught you will not be used in different ways. So just segue into this, I had Coach Ryan and Coach John here that do soccer ministry. They always tell me, man, this is the most meaningful coaching experience I've ever had, because I'm giving more than just the sport. I'm sharing my passion. I'm sharing what God has done for me. I'm sharing way more than just the athletic side of things. And maybe the third point about Keith is the boldness, right? Not to steal anyone else's motto, but just do it. I think as believers, we are called to make disciples. We are called to give, to deny ourselves. And when I look at Keith, when I tell other pastors, other people about Keith, running a weekly basketball night, I'm like, I'm sure there's a few people in your church that are under 80 years old who probably could do it as well. So that's one thing that is always fun to share, just to see his boldness and the way that it pays dividend, right? In the life of the youth that he coaches and that he mentors. So
amazing. We will share that video at the end of the episode, so stick around for that, Coach Keith, because it's a great example there. And you said earlier, so many churches in Canada have got like gyms that are connected to the church, right? So what an opportunity. And of course, with Sports Friends, like you said, we train someone, however old, whether they're 20 or 80, in between. They've got a passion to not just be a coach, but to be more than a coach, to share their life and share the gospel with young people. And so a really good example there of Coach Keith. And, obviously you're training many other coaches to do that as well. In Canada, obviously, I've heard you say this before our last question, a lot of churches sometimes do camps and they want to do one-day things. But what you're trying to do is trying to do more, train someone who's going to do ongoing ministry, right? The last question is, have you got any advice for anyone who's involved in sports ministry? But I wondered if you wanted to say a little bit about that in the Canadian context before you give us a bit of advice for people with sports ministry.
I'm honored and excited to see how God is really shaping up this ministry, right? The first thing that I see in my mind is, because of how vast the country is, it cannot rely on the shoulders of one or two people. As bold and courageous as they may be, I want to see a team built, right? We have in Canada 10 provinces and territories, and I want to see believers that firmly believe in disciple making to join the team, to join SIM. And right now we have one. So Nathan and his family, he's going to start all the way west in BC, where the ministry was kicked off in 2021. So I'm excited about this. If you're watching this, and if, being a missionary, being on the field, training others to do this, maybe just reach out to me. Maybe Canada is where God is calling you, right? But I want to build a team. The other thing that I'm excited for is that more and more church leaders and leaders of denominations, church families, they're seeing how their neighborhoods are changing, how urban cities are really diverse. And they're like, what is the thing that I can do? What is one more thing maybe? What is one more tool that I can do, that I can use? And sports is one, right? So as conversations just pile onto my schedule, the same thing keeps on coming. Sports is just a thing that we can do amongst neighbors, right? Is a thing that unites people. And I want to see a shift. Something that excites me is that more and more churches are doing summer ministries, whereas in the past in Canada, lots of summers were almost like a break for ministry. People were traveling, going here and there, maybe at the cottage or lake cabins, whatever. But I want to see urban churches and rural churches enjoy the summer, because that's when we see our new Canadians, right? Enjoy the heat, enjoy the summer, because for many of them, winter is a time where they disappear, but summertime they're out. So I want to see that. I'm excited that churches are asking, like, how else can we meet our neighbors? And obviously sports is one of them. That's where I find lots of joy in seeing where God takes it. And just as an advice, maybe for other, as you mentioned, people doing sports ministry across the world, I think we're on this earth as, God's children to complete his work and not to compete for his work, right? I want to...
That's a goal bar.
I'm so impressed here in Canada. I meet with other sports ministry workers of different organizations, and it's just wonderful to see us as we come together in prayer. And we all have different things that identify us as a ministry, but we are there to complete God's works, to walk alongside him and not to compete, right? And not try to get more of this and more of them. So that's obviously one. And I think we need to be courageous, right? Because our enemy is going to want us to put the brakes on, and he's going to try to discourage us. But I think in Canada, for example, I can say that it can be pretty dark to live here. It can be pretty heavy. Lots of things that are not super are happening. And as church, we are there to bring the light and bring the salt. So I think we just need to be courageous and keep going forward.
Here you go. Ben's written some things down. Ben, what do you think?
Is there? I mean, it's good because in the past, you've obviously invited others from Canada before yourself onto the podcast, which shows that, you're here to complete the work of God, not compete. And that's what the podcast is about, is trying to get other people, different platforms, different ministries, for us to say, hey, let's complete the work, not compete. So I think that's a really great way to finish. And I tell you what, it's gone right on my quote list right there. Is it you said that, Charles, or someone else? Or can I put you as you're the person, you're the guy?
I think you can put Coach Keith. And he's a pretty wise guy, so I like to draw some wisdom. I like to glean some wisdom from him.
There you go. Well, I think we've gleaned some from you, right, Carl? As your neighbour, you've learned about Canada a little bit more.
Oh yeah, so new respect for Canada. Already one podcast, season 4 is all about Canada. We should just call it More Than Canada. But if I could give you one piece of advice, just professionally, new wineskins and old wineskins. I know in North Africa you had your backpack, you had that experience, but now you need a new wineskin, new luggage, right? Let's graduate beyond those small little backpacks that you carry over. Try to get like a little roller. I mean, just try. I mean, it could be useful. You never know.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Not a chance. Your children are scarred for life.
I do have to bring small gifts to my kids when I travel.
Yeah,
they don't have a lot of space, but it's okay. It's okay. Canada is a very small country, so they cannot get big gifts.
Comes back with 4 T-shirts on. One for you, one for you.
Hey, well, last time I saw Charles, I saw him in Heathrow Airport face to face, and he actually checked the bag with some jerseys to take to coaches in BC. So there's something going on, Mad Dog.
Was he shaking? Was it kind of like he was out of his comfort zone?
I said, if you don't do this, you're not coming on already one. So, and here he is. No, Charles, joking aside, it's been great. We love having you. It's a great work colleague. And yeah, we're really excited for the work that's going on in Canada. And and to see what God's going to continue to do. Maybe more coaches like Coach Keith, and excited for Nathan to join the team as well. And just keep doing that. Keep continuing to complete God's work in your lane, and working with others in that way as well. So thanks so much for coming on. And someone's got to win that gift that you've got right there, right? So
info at sports-friends.org. Canadiens, send us an email.
Thanks, guys. It's awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. All roads lead to Canada, and we've been to Canada.
We've been to Canada. We've been enlightened about Canada. I tell you, your neighbours, incredible stuff from our team leader, Charles. I tell you what, Mad Dog, the thing I really liked was when he said about Coach Keith, passion and treasure, never bury those. If you've got a passion, if you've got some treasure, don't bury them, right? Don't bury it. Don't bury it, Mad Dog. Great advice from Mr. Millette.
I'm not trying to compete with you or with God. I'm just trying to complete.
There you go. Complete. Love it.
With God
complete,
started.
Complete. Don't compete. Love it. Great hashtag there for what he won. But yeah, it was good. Golden take. Enjoy that golden take from another country.
Golden take. So I think the great thing is we're giving people this season a highlight of, we get some superstars in here, Olympians to come in here. We're dropping the gold. They're dropping the gold. There's so much gold. It's stacking up. The piles are there. But, it's good to hear from one of our own Sports Friends staff, see what they're doing, what he's doing, what he started in Peru, and now shifted to Canada. Different field, different opportunities. But, yeah, God can use sports. God can use you and to disciple youth.
Yeah, amen. And like you said, he did invite Sarah. He's worked with Sarah before. He's not compete with her. He works with her and does some more ability sports together and stuff. He had Sydney on, and now we heard about Sports Friends, like you said, one of our own. I was really struck by in Canada, ministries been going 5 minutes, and how many churches have got gyms that are attached to part of churches. I thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity for us to train a coach that can literally use the building, which has already got a gym, like a basketball gym, connected to it. I mean, amazing. And that ongoing ministry where you've got a trained person in front of young people. And what an example there he said about Keith from the age of 80 all the way down to the age of 20s. And Charles said, what an opportunity Sports Friends does to invite young adults to step into ministry, right? So, yeah, I think that's a real strength for Sports Friends, that we train lay leaders, and they're often, a little bit younger on their generation, but they can speak at the young people. And I think that leadership development that we do, people step into ministry and see themselves as a minister. They're a sports minister. They don't have to be, like a trained pastor, but they can go in and have the heart to reach young people. And that's what we're trying to do across Canada as well. So exciting to see how God's started stuff there and what's going to happen in the future in Canada as well in the next 5 years as well. So great golden take. But I think, Mad Dog, we got to watch this video, right? Coach Keith, we got to see for ourselves. We heard about him. There's no excuses. But what do people got to do before we watch the video?
Stick around, people. The video's here. We've talked about. Here comes Coach Keith, young man of 79, 80, I think is what he said. So right now, as you're watching this, this video's coming on. It's going to be a great testimony of how God can use anyone for sports ministry. So tell your friends right now, and make sure you tell those friends to tell their friends. And if you're sitting around, your parents are nearby, tell them, and then have them call their parents' friends. Just get everyone to know we've already won, and then watch the video. Coach Keith.
He's taught me at any age you can be available to work in any type of ministry, and my ministry had to be sports ministry. And so I was available, and he led me to do this, and now I'm blessed, and I love what I'm doing. I was born in Glasgow, Nova Scotia, but I've lived in Fredericton, New Brunswick, 74 of my 78 years. I was a dentist for 50 years, and now I'm retired a couple of years ago. Growing up, my mom and most of my relatives were Christians, so I went to church a little bit. But when I got older and went away to study dentistry at Dalhousie University, I didn't go to church at all. I just was totally into sports. And then I met my wife when I was at dental school. Got married in 71. I accepted Christ in 74. Once I became a Christian, had that personal relationship with Jesus, he gave me the gift to be evangelistic. So through sports and through my dental practice and then through just my life, I just wanted to share Christ with people.
Coach Keith and I go back many years, and I understood his passion for sports, but his greater passion for God and for the people that surround him.
So this picture I'm holding is the result of an accident I had in the Toronto airport. I was just coming back from a mission trip in Jamaica, actually, and all I saw was this parking blind bus coming at me at an angle, and he missed me, my liver, my kidneys, and my back by a little bit, but he just crushed my leg. Anyway, they didn't know whether they could save the leg, but they said you'll always have to have a cane, and your leg will swell, and you'll have to have a knee operation, and you'll need a knee replacement, and you'll need this, and you'll need that, and I didn't believe any of it. I knew the ultimate healer was God, and he was going to heal me. Then my life after that just totally changed. Instead of becoming bitter because I couldn't play sports anymore, and it made me a better person. And for the first time in my life, I was set free. I didn't have to perform anymore. I didn't have to be anything. I just had to walk with Jesus in that intimate relationship and walk with my dear wife. Sports ministry was an unbelievable outlet for me to do the next step, where it's not competitive. It's all about sharing Jesus, sharing love with these children and young adults, and work on family relationships. And we've seen great blessing. I can show how sports and Jesus work together. We asked them questions at the end of the year. What do you think was the best thing about this? Is that I was loved and that I felt safe.
So the vision and the mission of Sports Friends Canada and Sports Friends at large is really visible in the life and the ministry of Keith, because Keith brings his team together for the fun of what playing basketball is, but he brings Jesus on the court as he prays with them and as they pray for each other and as he teaches.
The mentorship and the coaching that I got here, it's helped me with my relationship with God. Even all the time he'll be like, not only do you have to have your foundation in basketball, but you also have to have your foundation in life on Jesus. And those connections are things that really help me understand God better.
I asked God when I became a Christian, especially after my accident, that what would be the best thing that I could ever leave behind? And it wouldn't be money, and it wouldn't be this. It would be if I could mentor somebody and they could accept Jesus, and then they would mentor somebody.
So the story that Coach Keith is building as he trusts God to be that coach and the life of these players is, to me, an encouragement that in every church in Canada there's someone who is similar to Keith, whether it's closer in age or the story in his life of brokenness, that maybe at first they won't think of themselves as a coach, but will see someone like Keith who commits to being present on the court, not because he's got the greatest ability or not because he looks like these players, but because he has the heart of God to be there present in the life of the players.
If you have a call that you want to be involved in ministry in anything, you should just do it, because God will equip you. It's too easy to just make excuses. Well, I've done that, or I'm too old now, or I've already served my time. There's no fun in that. But there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of joy in finishing strong in your life.